All right, it seems like we're back. Goodness gracious, goodness gracious. Hey, Mario Kart guy, thanks for mentioning us and talking here in the chat. Yeah, come out to the Freeman. We play over at the Freeman every Thursday night from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. So that's a super fun time that the band has. All right, that completely ruined the whole train of thought. Let's get back on it just for a hot second and maybe finish answering this question, and we'll go on from there. Yeah, so just a quick review. We're answering this person's this question, how to get into jazz theory. We gave him the Dan Hurley book, and I think they had a question. How do you suggest learning to transcribe? I've heard this from my friend who picked up jazz in college as well, so it must be true, but every time I try, I feel like I'm guessing the key and the notes. Do I need to train my ear more, or should I start with the easier, clearer melodies? I would say yes to everything you just asked. Why not? I think us as musicians, first of all, try to do things that are way too hard for us. Pick the easiest standard jazz thing that you can think of. Have you transcribed a couple blues heads? Can you play over the blues? Can you do some standards? Maybe Satin Doll, or Take the A Train, or get some easy, serious bass down, right? I think you are onto something with that, and that's one of the things I remember that really made myself get better at jazz is when I realized, okay, take a step back and absolutely nail down some of these things that you need to learn. Some of these tunes, some of these chord progressions, and we'll never stop having to be that way. We'll have to constantly take a step back and do that. But yeah, I think you're onto something there. And let's back up in the question a little bit more. Do I need to train my ear more? Or am I, yeah, of course, do I need to train my ear more? That's a great question as well. Yes to that one as well. Of course you need to train your ear more. How do you train right now? I don't really know you, so it's kind of hard to say what your ear training is like, right? I would say in this book, the theoretical book that you got, the easiest way to keep your ear on par, to get that ear up to date, is we need to get you at least associating intervals with a sound, right? Don't just memorize the theory. Associate the intervals, associate the chords with a sound, associate the chord progressions with a sound. And from there, that experience with those sounds and theory can help transfer over to the simple standards that you're working on. And the standards there, they are the lessons in themselves. If you know how to play your 2-5-1 and you know what that sounds like, and then hearing the 2-5-1 in minor is not that hard. But getting that 2-5-1 down and knowing that, you know, that bass, or I'm just giving that 2-5-1 as an example, or even if you know what the blues progression sounds like, getting that sound in your ear is the first step. And transcribing or learning tunes, transcribing tunes is a great way to get into that, because the tunes can teach you every single thing you need to know. I feel like I'm just guessing the key and the note. All right, so I've done a couple transcribing videos, and one of the ways that we did it, especially as starting transcribers, people that are new to transcribing, is to grab a couple notes, right? Grab the first couple notes and see if you can figure out the key. And if you can't figure out the key, that kind of sets us back. We need to make sure that you know all your keys, all your key signatures and whatnot. But most importantly, I say just keep hacking away at it and know how to theoretically explain everything, or most everything. And if you can explain most everything, then next time you'll be able to explain a little bit more than that, and next time a little bit more than that. Pick a concept and see if you can outline that. I would say there is one flaw I see in your thing. It seems like you don't want to get any lessons or help on a regular basis, and that's okay. Like I said, it depends on your level and what you want to work on. That's completely fine. But having that teacher there that sees you and hears how you play can give you some more dedicated device or instructions, I guess, more into it instructions, more in-depth or personalized instructions. I would say if you're a beginning transcription kind of person, grab that, especially if you're a trumpet player, grab those books. What are they called? I can look them up here. I think they're like this big again. I think we talked about one of the books. It's like the most famous jazz trumpet solos. I have them here on my computer, and I think they're pretty cheap as well to get. Let me pull them. I just want to make sure I have the right name for you guys. Okay, we got to go to Dropbox. Then we're going to go to Files, and got me. I don't know where I'm at anymore. We can do this. We can do this. Apparently, it's not here. It's like 21 jazz solos, famous jazz trumpet solos, or just look up the most famous jazz solos played by trumpet players. There's tons of websites out there on those. And start with those solos. Start with the easy sounding ones, the ones that you think you can do. Or if it's just the first chorus or just the first 8 bars, that's enough to get you going. And then use that information. Yeah, I would definitely suggest at least getting a couple lessons, right, to see what you are good at and get some direction in there. Let me see if I read your thing again here. It seems like you're older, so I think even if you just buy one lesson or take one lesson from a friend or take a lesson from buy a lesson from a colleague or a professor near you that plays trumpet and is experienced in this art form, then yeah, you can learn a lot of your direction. My last tip for you would be, like, I would ask you is, who are you listening to? Right? Of course, who you're listening to. And are you going out and seeing live jazz being performed? Those are 2 other things that you probably should be doing if you want this to happen. All right, so if you have any more questions, feel free to ask. I'd love to get more into detail, but as far as time gets concerned here, we want to make sure we're not going to take too much time to do all of this. You know what I'm saying? Oh, let's see. I'm feeling like I'm just guessing the key in the. We've been there. I've been there. I would say with that as well, you're probably transcribing the wrong tunes. Pick those easy ones, right? And don't depend on the sheet music. Don't even get the sheet music out. Maybe just to see what the melody is and compare it to what they're playing. That'd be a great option, just to confirm what you've transcribed is accurately the right kind of thing to do. All right. So, of course, we've answered a little bit more of your question. I'd love to. Thanks for the question. I have featured it on today's show, Q&A show. And the link, of course. The big question is, who do you listen to? Who's your favorite trumpet player? If you listen to him, then transcribe him. It's so weird, and I'm not calling anyone out on this, but I remember being in high school, or I just know a bunch of kids in high school because I teach high schoolers, right? The kids that aren't in band, they have favorite bands, right? They have their favorite rock bands or favorite, I don't know, rappers, DJs. I don't know what you guys listen to nowadays, but I know you have your favorite ones, and I know back in the day and now, people are not afraid to cover those songs and make their own covers of them and work toward making those covers. But us in the classical music world and in the early jazz world and the high school jazz world and sometimes even the college, we find it weird that it's not written down on a piece of music. Transcribing is the art form of music, and I think you got to do that, and I think you're on the right step. If you're willing to jump into that transcribing train, it only gets easier each time you do it, so keep working. All right, I'm gonna come over here. Our next thing, okay, is Mario Kart guy. Cool, perhaps I catch the free man. All right, we already said. Was hurting to get the when it came to books is I read the Omni book with the leading sax licks to help me get out of that standard trumpet solo sound. Yes, the Omni book is great. Be careful with that Omni book. You know, there's a lot of wrong keys and wrong notes in there. So I would say, like we were just talking about with those transcribing the heads, make sure you go on and compare it to what they're actually playing in the solo as well, right? That's definitely one of the things you can do. Yeah, Mario Kart guy. What a cool name, man. I love it. Any other questions from you guys? I don't know if that's still you over here, Mario Kart guy. I got one person there. I guess another thing you can do is once you get to knowing those licks that you really like and those sounds that you like making, and you can theoretically explain them, then start playing them in every key as well, right? That really opens you up to be very free with those ideas. It's easy to take one key or one idea and just evolve it through keys slowly as a solo. Yep. What's up, Mario Kart? All right. So let's find one more question, answer it, and then we'll see what happens. I love this split screen thing. Let me see if I can get that going again. Since it went down, I had to restart the whole program. And yeah, now there's gonna be 2 videos for this one video today. How lucky are we? At least for the saved ones in the aftermath after we get off here in a second. Oh, let's see. I was getting that split screen back up and running because I'm spoiled and I like it. Kind of shows you guys the questions. If I can only remember how to do it. There we go. Downloads and this. And we should, here we go. Back over here to Reddit and boom, boom. Ah, yes. And we got the split screen, picture in picture. This one, this one, this one. And we'll go over there. Nice. All right, so we just answered that question. I'm glad we got to answer that one. Let's see if we can find one more. If we have other questions over here on the right, or down in the comments as you guys are coming in after the fact, after the live stream, let's go ahead and see if we can ask those questions down there. Cool. You got a nice view of my script-ish. Okay, I think we got to go one more back. It'd be nice to have some music while we do this, huh? All right. Wow, look at that post. Yeah, it's pretty cheap. Lead pipe detached. Not hard to fix. Pocket trumpets. I was actually thinking of starting a new series, a new segment of this show for brass players in the brass players learning their scales, like middle school, elementary school, even high school. Just something fun where we buy the most ridiculous trumpets and learn the scales on those trumpets. That could be fun. I don't know. I'm trying to think of different ways to get my students to learn their scales. Lip slurs, right? What do you guys think? That and transcribing what shakes sound like. This might be interesting to see. Let's see what this sounds like. Yeah, super short lick. This might be something we can help out. My high notes sound weak and quiet. Also starts off really badly. I think it was called an attack. My attack of high notes is a weird fizzle in the high note, and I cannot play it any louder. What do you guys think is the problem? More long tones. Of course, maybe not more. Actually, I disagree with myself. Not more, and here's why. I think as we're going through and we're practicing all these long tones in our exercises, our facility exercises, a little bit more and more, there are essentially 4 exercises that I've boiled it down to that help make everything easier on trumpet. I really think the trumpet is an easy instrument if you are playing it correctly. And that's the catch there. That's the big catch, if you're playing it correctly. And I think a lot of us don't play it correctly. Let me know what you think. Do a lot of people that you know in high school and elementary, middle school, learn the trumpet correctly first? Do you think they learn it correctly later? I really think they learn it correctly later, and that's kind of like backwards, right? At least from the students I've been getting here in Dallas, a lot of them come in with very poor practice technique and very poor sound technique. All right, let's read some of these comments before we answer this question. I use this video as okay. They're giving a nice video. We can check that out here in a second. How are we talking? Oh, perhaps an embouchure or lack of issue. Generally, it's weak or pinched, limiting your air. There's a variety of reasons. So I'd ask for someone you can directly demonstrate the problem with. I definitely agree with this one. Also, get your teacher, send them, or just click the link and, if you're watching this later original poster, click the link in the description below and send me what you're working on, what we're working on with here, what we're working with here. And I'll give you some even more personalized advice. But just from this, I can give you some advice. Let's say I had the same problem, the same high notes. It's a little bit better because I adjusted my embouchure a bit tighter. I don't know if that really helps. To me, it doesn't. Tighter. I don't know. Where is it going to get tighter at? Two reasons I can think of. Lips are too far apart when you're buzzing, okay? Or you're just changing your embouchure to play higher instead of your elbow. All right, so here, this is a very a controversial subject here in the trumpet world. And finally, we get to get our horns out. Let's see if I can get back to our good screen here. Yes, back to it. Where's my trumpet? So we were really we're thinking of a couple things here. One, I think the biggest issue with poor sound, and I think the biggest issue with poor sound, I know the biggest issue with poor sound, especially in the young trumpet population, is if you ask that trumpet player who your favorite trumpet player is, they can't answer you. They might be able to name one trumpet player. They might be able to name Louis Armstrong. And then you ask yourself, I'm sorry, not yourself. You ask them, what's your favorite song by Louis Armstrong? Because he's your favorite trumpet player, so you probably listen to him, right? So you ask what's your favorite song? And they can't name a song. Oh, okay. My favorite is when they can't even name one trumpet player, right? Oh, my goodness gracious. That's like the worst thing in the world. If you don't know what a trumpet sounds like, first of all, like a true trumpet sound, someone that's getting paid lots of money to play this trumpet, then if you don't know what that sounds like, then how can you mimic it? How can you make that trumpet happen the most effectively? Thinking about it on a more basic level. If you were trying to learn English, shouldn't you hear it? You cannot learn English from purely just reading it, right? The verbal language English, right? Of course, you can learn English to write, and blind people have the Braille and everything. But if you were to learn English, you need to hear it. If you were learning Chinese, you got to hear it, right? I promise you, I cannot learn Chinese without someone demonstrating it for me. So that's the cool thing about trumpet. We're sitting here and we're thinking, okay, how do we, first of all, play high notes? And the core issue isn't even the high notes. You probably can play those high notes. It's pretty easy if you get the right sound in your ears and the right sound in your head. And that being said, you do need to practice, of course. But the core problem, I think, with most people is you don't listen to trumpet players on a regular basis. You might have heard a trumpet player in the past, but you don't listen to them on a regular basis. So that's my first question for you of the original poster here. This is I don't even know how to say that name. You'll see who it is. You'll know who it is because that link will be in the description there. That link will be in your comment section there. But yeah, that's my first question is, do you listen to trumpet players? All right, if you can answer that, that'd be great. I'd love that. I'd just love to know if you do or not. But if you do listen to trumpet players and you're killing at listening and you're expanding and you're working on that kind of stuff, that listening kind of aspect, that's step number one. And let's go on to step number two. Then the next question I would ask for you is, and it kind of goes into your original post there, where you ask more long tones. More long tones. Of course, kind of, not really. It's really, I think, how you play the long tones. It's not the quantity of long tones. It's how you play them. I think there's actually should be a maximum quantity that you allow yourself to do per day, and maybe even a minimum quantity of how much. But more importantly, if you're just playing the tones and you're not really thinking of certain things or how you feel or how does it sound, I should say most importantly, how does it sound and how do you feel when it sounds like that, then why do you do the exercise? It's really boring and meaningless exercise. And you're going to be teaching yourself the wrong way of doing it if you're not thinking of being precise and doing those the right way. So get your horn. I'm going to go through a couple long tones. And there's actually 3 other exercises I can give you. I want to make a whole video on these 4 exercises. These are the 4 maintenance exercises. The 4 maintenance exercises that make a trumpet player sound good. And make it easy to play trumpet. So long tones, of course. So when I'm doing my long tones, got my horn here, microphone down below. When I'm doing my long tones, I'm really thinking about a couple things. And one is creating that great sound through air. You had said something in your comment here called an attack. My sound, especially when you start off, and I just most likely, I think your air is like your energy. not all of your energy when you play trumpet, because there's another thing I think that gives you energy, but your air is your energy. And I think a lot of times when people have a poor attack, or like what you're saying, it's hard to say because I got to hear you play it, but when you're going and you're working on that energy, I think most people like start off at 0 and then go to 60 in like 10 seconds. So they don't have energy when they start. Well, why don't you have that energy when you start with your air? So when you count yourself in, I go 1, 2, and I actually play it. Sorry about that. Oops. All right, so let's check it out. 1, 2. And one of the things I do try to work on, I don't use vibrato usually when I play these long tones. I've been getting into a habit of using them, and there's one of my bad habits I'm trying to get rid of. I'm trying to really concentrate on the core sound, and vibrato kind of can hide that if you want it to. So I'm just experimenting with getting rid of that vibrato and seeing if I can still sound great. So the first tip is, when you're playing your long tones, have that energy before you start playing, when you start playing, throughout the entire long note, and after. The second thing is you can phrase a single note, and I think phrasing gives us an energy as well. Phrasing, to me, is taking one note and leading it to the next, right? So when I phrase a long note, I'm not necessarily getting louder, but I'm giving it some direction, and that is the second part of the energy I like to think about when I'm working in that, because that can be easily transferred to any pieces of music. Am I playing with great air, and am I phrasing? Because phrasing is everything. So listen to this phrasing. 3. And I did a little bit more than I normally would do if I was playing it, just to give you guys some idea of what's going through the horn. All right, so I actually do the Bill Adams long tone routine. So I start on G, I go chromatically down to the F sharp, chromatically up to the G sharp, chromatically down to the F. So let's do a little bit of that. G, F sharp, 3. Two, 3. And I go down to a low G and up to a high G on most days. And if I don't make it there, I'm at least getting to an E or an F or an F sharp. Especially, it takes a little bit of time. I think it takes about 5 minutes to get all that done. And 5 minutes isn't that much in the grand scheme of things. So when you're doing your long tones, are you thinking about that great sound production on every single note? And do you take that time to go through your entire range, or most of your range, at least with the long tone exercise, to think about, does every single note sound great? If you were trying to get into the high note kind of stuff, I would definitely play a couple of high note long tones. But like I said, it's not about how many you play, it's about how you play them. So going on, the second exercise I'd give you is an articulation exercise, and we need a metronome to do this. So metronome. And for beginners, I put it around 100 or 80 or 120. Today we're just going to put it at 130 or 140, just for the sake of the exercise. One of my favorite tempos, 144. I don't know why it's my favorite, but it's my favorite. So here's a simple articulation exercise, and a couple things to think about while you do the articulation exercise that makes you sound a little better, right? One, articulation exercise is about moving your tongue. I think it's a long tone plus wiggling your tongue, and that's all it is. So I start off there. So let's, on a C, our trumpet concert B flat. Let's hold that C long tone out, and with the metronome, then start articulating eighth notes. Once you get a feeling for that great sound on the long tone, transfer the great sound from the long tone to the articulation study. You'll hear it. Then I chromatically walk down. Now, if you're a beginner, you can slur down and just articulate the tops and the bottoms. Did you notice how every single note was as long as it possibly could be. That's where I'm thinking my air is the most efficient, and I'm getting the most sound out of every single note that I possibly can. I think it's 2019. All notes are created equal, and if we chip any of those notes short, that's where our sound and our air and our great trumpet core sound is going to suffer, right? We want this core sound to be just smooth. Listen to that one more time. I'm going to chromatically walk down to the lowest note, and as well, I'm going to articulate on the lowest note 1 octave down. It's a pretty easy exercise. It's just a chromatic scale with articulation. You don't have to do it. You can articulate it 16 times. You can articulate it 32 times. Maybe more than twice, though. For the sake of time, I'm not going to do too many here live, but yeah, it's a great exercise for to get the air going while wiggling your tongue, to get sound going while wiggling your tongue to separate the sound, right? It's not stopping the sound. It's not stopping the air, that tongue. It's letting it go through. Your third exercise, of course, is going to be scales. And right, I think scales, when you're looking here, scales are the exact same exercise as the long, or not the long, of course the long tones. Scales are long tones plus moving your fingers, right? The exact same exercise as your articulation. But instead of changing the sound with our tongue or by articulating, we're changing the sound with our fingers. So I like to start and do scales backwards. That way I get the air going on that high B flat again, and I go keep that air the same all the way through the entire range of the instrument, going down and up. And of course, I like to slur these because this is not an articulation exercise, first of all, but that helps me to keep my air and sound going. And of course, you can phrase through those just like you did with your long tones. But every single note is equal. And if you're playing this exercise and every single note is not equally sounding, then you're probably, 1, playing a scale that's too hard for you, or 2, playing a scale that's too fast for you, right? Or playing an articulation study that's too fast for you, right? These exercises are to say, hey, I can do this, right? And tomorrow I will be able to do this much more. Not much more, this much more, right? Going slow and methodical. All right. We just talked about scales, going through your scales. The last thing, not the last thing, the second to last thing. A tip there for these four maintenance exercises, as I call them, long tones, lip service, scales, and articulation. Do you do them over your entire range? That's the next question. Most of my students, they come in and I'm like, and they say, oh, I can't play high. I'm like, do you do your maintenance exercises? They're like, oh, yes. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's do your maintenance exercises. And about 3 keys up, we get to like D or E flat, and they're like, oh, I don't go this high. I was like, what? You want to play higher, but you don't practice higher? Like with the easy exercises, these are the ones you're supposed to be able to do, right? And just play them where they're comfortably. And of course, the student can play them. It's just they struggle because they think they can't. So practice your exercises over your entire current range, and then go where you're comfortable, high and low, all the way down to the low F sharp on trumpet, high B flat, high C, high D, E, whatever your range is. That's where you go. And you sound great. Wherever your range is, that you sound great. All right, the last exercise is no different than the other two. It's a long tone plus changing notes using lip slurs. I don't even know what we're doing there, because I'm really focusing on changing the notes with my ears by hearing the note and letting the air take me to the new note. So put your metronome. Let's get your metronome going. Maybe, of course, I forgot to put the metronome on scales, by the way. What's 80 sound like? Nice and slow. I like to do major arpeggios starting on concert B flat. So it's going to be the third space B flat, or concert B flat, third space C, C, E, G. If you guys are confused about major arpeggios, hit me up. I would love to give you guys a lesson, a private lesson to talk about those. Listening for a couple things. Again, it's a long tone, so every bit of air flows through the entire exercise. It doesn't get stopped. Even if I switch notes, the air keeps going, right? Even between the notes, the air keeps going. Second, every note is phrased into the next, whether I'm ascending or descending. Here's the B major arpeggio. I have variations of these that go through the entire range of the instrument as well. But notice we're not really talking about what exercise you're playing. I'm just giving you a couple standard ones that you could play. These are actually, most of them are from the Bill Adams routine. So if you search that up on Google, the Bill Adams trumpet routine, you'll be able to find the written out exercises. But I encourage you, don't look at them, just play them, right? But more importantly, think about that great sound through the entire exercise. If you find yourself sounding bad, there's something wrong with, you've either been playing too much, get the horn off your face for a second, right? Or you're going too fast, or you're playing the wrong scale. You're playing something that's outside of your level, because these 4 exercises are, this is your choice to sound good, is what I like to tell my students. You get to choose to sound good on these 4 exercises. So, yeah. Anyways, with a little bit of time left, actually, yeah, we're pretty much out of time for today's episode. I hope that our question and answer kind of routine thing happens every Tuesday. I cannot wait, actually. As we're finishing up here, I'd love to ask you to like, subscribe, and share this with some students of yours, right, or some friends of yours if you guys are learning from this. The whole point of this is I want to help you guys learn jazz, right? So, yeah. Thank you guys once more. You can check out, let me just tell you a couple more things. One, my company does these live lessons every single day at 3:30. We also are going to be doing doing a couple different segments. This is the second segment. Yesterday was a live lesson. We actually learned something new to play jazz with, kind of fun stuff. I don't know. Today was the Q&A. Tomorrow, I think we're actually doing the first episode of Scale Jail, but it might not be like how I said earlier. So excuse me for 1 second. My dogs are going absolutely crazy. I'd love to introduce you to those dogs, but goodness gracious. Don't you like it when your dogs are good forever and then misbehave? You gotta turn that metronome off, huh? You guys didn't tell me it was still going. Apparently it is. Cool. Anyways, we're doing live lessons here every single day at 3:30 most days. And the last thing we're doing, I guess the next thing I wanted to tell you about, is I do online video lessons. So if you guys are on YouTube, or not YouTube, Skype or FaceTime or any of those platforms like Facebook or anything like that, we'll do some one-on-one lessons. They are $60 each, but the first one's always free. So hit me up there. I'd love to give you some input on your playing, whether you're working through some of our lessons that we post on our lesson playlist or just working on something by yourself. All right. Anyways, I'm Nick McLean. Thank you guys so much for checking in with the NM Music channel. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys tomorrow at 3:30. If you really like what we're doing, check out my website, which is probably in the link in the description. I think it is. And if not, I'm going to add it right now. www.nm-music.org. And on that website, you have a mailing list that you can join. And yeah, so if it's not there, hit refresh once we're done, and it'll be there. Thanks, guys, once again. Join that mailing list and hit subscribe. All the good things. Bye-bye.